So Virginia, we pretty much have a very liberal, unfortunate abortion policy anyway. And you can technically have abortion up until birth. You just need two doctors to sign off on it. But now this amendment will decrease the need for two doctors to one doctor. You can have abortion up until birth. And the really concerning thing is anyone, any age can get an abortion. They're not getting that parental involvement to figure out what's happening.
A Catholic who wandered into the wrong living room. She expected fellowship, not a radical reorientation of her life. But week after week, she heard stories of injustice, slaves sold in the open markets while neighbors walked by, churches singing louder to drown out the cries of Jews and rail cars. And she suddenly realized that's what she's been doing her entire life. Turning up the noise so that she doesn't hear the truth. That moment changed everything. Today, Dana DiMattea is an anti-abortion activist in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. She's worked with young adult pro-life networks, supported federal rescue defendants, organized grassroots actions, and even been arrested herself outside the White House during a demonstration for justice for the five. Infants that were discovered at a D.C. abortion facility. She's not interested in checking the boxes of vote, donate, and pray. She's pushing for a deeper paradigm shift, one that asks whether we actually live as though abortion is the human rights atrocity we claim it is. And with Virginia facing a sweeping abortion amendment that could move to a special session soon, she believes complacency isn't just costly, it's catastrophic. Today, we talk about activism, abolitionism, Virginia's political battles, what Dobbs did and didn't solve, and how ordinary people can step out of comfort and into courage. This is Living Pro-Life. Well, Dana, welcome to the program. We're excited you're here.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, wonderful. Dana, you're there in the great state of Virginia. There's a lot happening in Virginia and not far from our amazing capital, Washington, D.C. And so there's a lot happening. Give us a little insight of what's happening in Virginia and then maybe what's happening there in D.C.
Of course. Well, I'm sure that you've seen kind of across the country, they've been passing a lot of these ballot initiatives to enshrine abortion into state constitutions. It's kind of one of the ripple effects from the Dobbs decision. And Virginia is up next. So Virginia has a little bit of a different process, but they just passed an abortion amendment through the House and the Senate last legislative session. Then they just had an election, which was a total wash. So there's still a Democratic majority. So now, starting in January, there will be another passing through of the abortion amendment in the House and the Senate, unless we are able to change some of the Democrats' minds to vote against it. And then we just found out, instead of the amendment being put on the ballot in November of 2026, they actually might be moving it up into a special election in April or May, which is a little unfortunate because I think a lot of people just think of elections only in November, and these special elections are really not as well known. And then I think that that's what they're hoping for, to pass it into the Constitution.
So what exactly would this constitutional amendment do?
Yes. Well, so Virginia, we pretty much have a very liberal, unfortunate abortion policy anyway, right? We have abortion. You can technically have abortion up until birth. You just need two doctors to sign off on it. Most of the clinics, only do until maybe the end of the second trimester. But now this amendment will decrease the need for two doctors to one doctor. You can have abortion up until birth. And the really concerning thing is anyone, any age can get an abortion. So one of the angles is, minors can seek abortions, but does that protect then? What if they're being coerced? What if they're being sex trafficked? What if they were raped, right? They're not getting that parental involvement to figure out what's happening. And in addition to this abortion amendment, the the legislation in Virginia is also trying to pass bills that essentially will protect abortionists that send out abortion pills to other states where abortion is illegal. It'll protect them if there's any negative consequences with that. And they're also probably going to try to pass again the SHIELD law, which will impact sidewalk counselors from the bubble zones, right? So they try to pass it last legislative session where if you were in 40 feet of the clinic or women, you could potentially face or state level penalties for that. So there's a lot of things that will kind of impact the pro-life advocacy, the movement, right? So it's not just abortion up until birth. It can impact really the way we're able to intervene, do our work, and it might also impact doctors that are against abortion, and if it's against their conscience. But if this amendment says you cannot deny reproductive health, what does that look like as well? So It puts a lot of different facets of society in jeopardy.
Well, we're chatting again with Dana DiMattea, an anti-abortion activist there in Virginia. And you like being called an anti-abortion activist. Tell us a little bit of why that might be.
Yeah, I am really against abortion. I don't believe in exceptions. Ectopic pregnancies and miscarriage care are not abortions. I think, unfortunately, I know there might be a negative connotation with anti-abortion, but I've been involved in different circles in the movement, some that kind of extend past the pro-life arm, and they might see the pro-life machine, not everyone that's in it, but the pro-life machine, as a detriment to our success or our efforts in trying to end this genocide. So it's kind of me reinforcing with others that I just don't want to play the game within the rules. I think I want to go outside the box. I want to collaborate with different groups. I want to go outside of the way that I think the pro-life movement has tried to make other people feel like they have to be involved, which is just donate and vote and pray and you'll be okay. And I think there has to be kind of another facet or component to that in this fight.
Those are, most of the time people say, what can I do? Well, donate, pray, go out to the sidewalk, maybe donate some items to a pregnancy center, volunteer. So tell us a little bit more. Go deeper.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to say this to I know it might be a little contentious, but I think a lot of people, they identify as pro-life, but there is an extension of I'm pro-life, but it doesn't go beyond that, right? And what I realize is for myself, like if I say that I'm against abortion, do I act like abortion's murder? Do I act like this is happening every day? In clinics? Is it happening in homes with pill abortions? And how do I live out my life in that value of this is happening and continuing on with that? And I think sometimes sometimes you have people that say they're, Christian or Catholic in name, but it's like you're supposed to live out your values in your faith. How do we do that? How can we do that if we're against this terrible atrocity? And I know a lot of people are, concerned with fear of I'm going to get arrested, I will be ostracized, which are all valid and it happens. But I think we are called, especially when we know that there's dismemberment going on and poisoning and babies being flushed down toilets. I think we are called to step outside of our comfort zone and the way that we're living life, and just to keep going on living is as if nothing is happening is really our fault, right? It's our fault to those babies.
So you're talking not necessarily you're going to do more or less. It's more about a paradigm shift of how do I live my life every day?
Right. And, does that look like I sacrifice Saturdays for the clinic? Does it look like not just like the shows that I watch to support that, but do I step out into circles that maybe talk about it? Or do I share that I'm against abortion? Do I make sacrifices where certain leisure activities I kind of have to not do instead of to help out other organizations that are trying to do advocacy or holding signs or something like that? And I know that a lot of people will say, I have a family, I work full time. And I totally understand that. And I think that that's why I try to do it, so that I can be a model to those that say, but I don't do this full time. And
Right.
just to say, like, if we all really need to step up and step in, because if we have a lot of other time to do everything else. And if we're so upset about this, then how do we switch that?
So you mentioned earlier getting arrested. So I've got to ask you, have you ever been arrested for the pro-life cause?
Yes, just once.
Just once.
And just once. And near
So tell us
arrest,
about that.
I did a lot of work with POW, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. They were doing a demonstration for the Justice for the Five, which, in case no one is aware, Justice for the Five was, they were the 5 later term abortion babies that were found in a box of 115 babies from the Washington Surgery Clinic, which was a 3rd trimester abortion facility in DC. That was procured by Teresa Bukovanak and Lauren Handy. They unveiled the box. They told, authorities, we want you to investigate autopsy. We think these babies might have been in violation of the partial birth abortion and the Born Alive Child Infant Act. And so, of course, there's been nothing, right? They said there's nothing to see here, folks. Just keep, walking past. So it was Halloween about 2 years ago, and we dressed up as Harriet, Phoenix, and Christopher X. Those are the 3 of the 5 babies that we think definitely might have been either born alive and left to die, or partially born while they were being then killed. We just did a demonstration of just sitting out there in solidarity for them, telling others to call the medical examiner. And, the cops don't like that, so they arrested us. Yeah. So,
Wow.
and of course, sidewalk counseling, if people don't like what you're doing, they always try to call the cops. I may or may not have been trespassed at a clinic, and the cops are called on all the time if I step on the grass.
May or may not. I cannot confirm nor deny that I stepped on the grass.
Yeah. 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 But I don't want people they don't have to get arrested, right? It's not about that. It's about, are you slipping information about what abortion is into the community boxes? Are you putting information about the abortion pill at the CVS pharmacy, right? It's like these little things that you can do. It's not, you need to go out and get arrested. You need to go out and, work full time for an organization. It's just incorporating it into our days. Can you sacrifice a Saturday, to be in front of a clinic?
So how did a Catholic end up at a Reformed Calvinist Bible study?
Yeah, that is where the story of my activism starts. So I grew up Catholic. I'm still Catholic. And I sadly was very lukewarm about abortion, to the point where I was that person that said, they can, how about rape? How about incest? I didn't really think about it. And I do Krav Maga, which is a self-defense martial arts. And one of the instructors there, his wife, said, you should come to my Bible study. My dad runs a Bible study out of his house. I said, sure. I just moved to the area looking for friends, groups, community. And I show up there, and almost every Bible study, they're just talking about abortion. I'm like, why are we always talking about abortion? Then I finally heard the stories. I say this all the time, but this was my moment where it just switched for me. The 2 stories where, African slaves were being sold just like in the middle of town, and people were going about their business while they're on these, blocks being sold, while they're going to church right across the street. And then the story of, there was this German woman that said during the Holocaust, their church were right by train tracks, where the train cars that were transporting the Jewish people to the concentration camps could be heard screaming from the cars. And the church just found a way to time their music so that the singing and the music could overpower the cries. And I remember that moment. I said, wait, what? And I realized then, just like internally, that's what I've been doing my entire life. Like, what have I been doing to drown out all of these cries? Like, what have I been doing to just keep doing my own thing, keeping myself busy? And, when you look at abortion, and especially these abortion clinics, you see it, right? People are walking by to go to Trader Joe's to get their Starbucks coffee, and literally in the building, what is happening? And that, I feel like, is our modern day thing. It's not that I'm denying atrocities that are happening in other arenas. I just think, though, the reason that this one spoke the most to me is because this is the one where when you bring it up, there's such vitriol to it and a denial about it happening, even with proof. And so that it switched me.
Well, I mean, many times I'll go out to the sidewalk and people yell and scream and they say, "Hey, get a job or go get a life."
My favorite.
Get
Yeah.
a life. I'm like, hey, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a
Yeah.
life here, right? That's the whole idea. They
Yeah.
don't
I
find
know
it
they
funny.
scream, "Go get a job," and I say all the time, "It's Saturday,"
Right.
like, you know? Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
No, so it is one of these things. It's a bit of a paradigm shift
Mhm.
that what is in our own life are
Mhm.
singing louder.
Yep.
Is in our own life, is it social media or listening to pro-life podcast or
Yeah.
uh, doing
Yeah.
all kinds of other things to keep us distracted while denying that children are dying right
Yeah.
here in our community.
Yes.
That all being said, a few years back, we had this thing called the Dobbs decision that
Mhm.
overturned Roe versus Wade. And Roe versus Wade, about 50 years of being under Roe versus Wade, we now are at a point where it's gone. It's in the past. It's literally history.
Mhm.
And now what? Now, what are we doing after this Dobbs decision, after Roe versus Wade?
Yeah. So this is the abolitionist arm in me coming out. So Roe versus Wade, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, Brian. Everyone said in our movement, we can't do anything until, Roe versus Wade is overturned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now look what's happening. We are finding states saying, watch me now, and they're putting abortion into their state constitution. You're still having people say, well, we can't do anything because now the states are putting into our constitution. And
Right.
so I don't know if have you ever heard of the doctrine of lesser magistrates? Have you heard
Uh,
that term before?
Tell us more. Tell us more.
So, and to anyone that's listening, I'm sorry if I butcher it, but just the simplified version of it is that if in government powers, if there is a law, a rule that is supersedes the dignity or the, in this case, human life, it
Mhm.
can be overturned. It does not have to be followed. So when you think about, we had Roe versus Wade, technically states, counties, all of that, they could have still defied abortion. They could have still have said that it doesn't exist here. And we have proof of that because there were, during COVID, you had counties that said, we are not doing lockdown. We're not following the masking requirements. There was another story where it was just about guns, owning guns. And one small county stood their ground and they're like, we were going to keep our guns. So it
Mhm.
does happen. The thing is that this could have happened even before Dobbs. And now it was kind of, everyone was waiting for this. And now in these 50 plus years, right, we kind of have been silenced in a way. And even those that know abortion's wrong, I think a lot of us still think, well, it's the rule, it's the law, so I can't defy that. And that's been the brainwashing. And so now I think even though we've had that overturned, we still have this culture of, if you want to say apathy, or this culture of, well, nothing to do. And you're seeing the other side. They're very proactive and they're organizing and they were ready for this and we weren't.
Again, we're chatting with Dana DiMattea, an
Yeah.
anti-abortion activist in Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for being on the program. Tell us,
Yeah.
as we're moving forward, what are kind of the next steps? So people are listening, they're excited. They're excited that
Yeah.
you got arrested, maybe that they want to get
Yeah.
arrested.
All more power
but,
to them. Yeah.
but what's next steps? Okay, so we can complain all we want about
Yep.
what Roe versus Wade did, and then of course what the Dobbs decision did not do. Now, what are we going to do? What are the next steps? So if I'm listening to this program thinking, I need to take the
Yeah.
practical next steps? What is it?
Absolutely. I love that question. I know it depends too where you are, right? So for the states that maybe abortion's banned, I say to everyone, like, start in social media, right? Share information about abortion. Sadly, we found out that a lot of people, a lot of women, they're getting their information about abortion on TikTok.
Mm.
And that's why we're having all of these horror stories with pill abortions at home. They don't even understand or know about resources. So, share information on social media. If you are in states where abortion exists, especially those in Virginia where abortion is coming down into a state constitution, spread information on social media about what the amendment really means, what it will entail, all of that, pass it along, share our posts from Virginia for Preborn Justice. I think too, for those that want to do a little bit more, I know sidewalk counseling, some people do a great job with that. If you think, well, I'm not a sidewalk counselor, I've done as well, just holding signs about abortion on street corners. It's uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
started doing it when I was trembling behind the sign, not wanting to be seen. Just bringing awareness about, hey, this is happening here. Some people I know they leaflet cars, they put stuff in community organizing, boxes, they drop things at the CVS pharmacy, just get information out there so people know that not everyone agrees with what the mainstream people think. And, that's kind of a little bit more of what Virginia for Preborn Justice is trying to do, is like organize and activate home groups. So they're doing a reproductive share fair where they go out to their community and they just share baby supplies and clothes and food and snacks so that people know and see their face, and then build relationships that way. There's a lot of different arms to it, I think. If people are more legislative and they want to go find their legislative session, look up who their delegate and their senator is, it's really easy to set up a meeting. We did it last session. We met online with at least 10 delegates, and we just did a little Zoom call, told them where we stood. We door knocked to their offices, talked about abortions. It takes sacrifice, it takes time, but those are ways to do those things. Even if it's just one post a day or it's, one flyer a day, it's just keeping that in our minds so that everyone else knows that this is happening and we just don't forget about it.
Tell me about those people. So I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there who are listening and they say, well, but my cousin or my coworker or my parents or my whoever, name the person,
Yep.
well, they're not going to hang out with me. They're not going to talk with me. If
Yeah.
I'm all about abortion and everything I'm
Yeah.
talking about, eventually I might lose some friends or even kind of alienate some of my family members. So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I've been there, so I totally understand that. For those that maybe haven't heard, but, I know that most of the people listening in might be, more Christian, but secular pro-life, they do a really great job with talking about this, especially since people in those circles normally would be for abortion. So they say, how do you navigate those conversations? And Monica Snyder always says, she just said, sometimes all you have to say is, I don't agree, and let that sit, right? Or sometimes for me, what I've done is when people ask me what I do or how was your Saturday, I just said, I did some pro-life activity, and I let that sit. It's very uncomfortable. I have friends that are not pro-life. That is something that I was like, oh gosh, like what if some people at work see me? Because one of the clinics I'm at is half a mile from my place of employment. And I say, what do I do when they see me when they're coming in on to work and they see me outside? So I know it's very uncomfortable, but what I also say too, and I have to remind myself, is it does not beat the discomfort of what is going to happen to that baby. So offer that, being ostracized, being mocked for that baby that day that was killed and that suffered a lot of pain. And for those that are listening in that are Christian, it's, this is where we store our treasures in heaven, right? This is our living out the Beatitudes, right? So just being in that space of just that simple statement says, I don't agree, or tell me more about that. Some of my other friends I've talked about, I went down the arm of how I help women, because that usually is also like building the bridge with them, because they want to help women. They see abortion as helping women. We see as talking them out of abortion helping women. So the defining moment is we want to help them. So I just tell them, hey, I have helped with their baby shower. We've helped pay rent. And that sometimes clues them in to be like, okay, okay. So you are trying to help them after the baby's born. And then that opens up conversations.
Absolutely. Well, Dana, thank you again for being on the program. I really appreciate it. We had a lot of fun. And I wish you all the best in your work there in Virginia and beyond.
Thank you so much. And, I would love everyone, if they're in Virginia, go to Virginia for Preborn Justice. We're getting out, we're jumping around to different communities to just go to houses, just to talk about the amendment, organize, activate people. We know that pro-life people want to do something. They just don't know maybe how to do it. So check us out. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Dana. And thank you to all of our listeners here at Living Pro-Life.
Thank you so much. Bye.